And I'm here with World History teacher Tradiskin on behalf of the Harlem Renaissance interview. Our first question is, what do you think about when you hear the word Harlem Renaissance?
Well, I think it's about the great undertaking of African Americans in the neighborhood of Harlem, New York, where they were creating great works of poetry and literature and drama. I think about great literary and academic achievements.
Okay. What brought about the Harlem Renaissance?
Well, Harlem Renaissance comes about historically as part of migrations of African Americans out of the South, typically looking to find less discrimination experiences in the North. And they sort of segregated into the neighborhood of Harlem, and it was then that they began to demonstrate the great talents that they had gathered over the many years. So it has to do with a lot of historical movement of ideas, thoughts, and peoples and great migrations.
Okay. Third, what are some of your favorite authors of the Harlem Renaissance?
Dudley Randall and Claude McKay. I hope I'm getting their names right. It's been some years since I was in college and read a number of their bits of poetry. There was some great poetry that were coming out of the Harlem Renaissance, and I really like how they talk about issues that were really important to African Americans as they were attempting to escape from racism of the South into a more moderate climate in the North. Sometimes they found success. Sometimes they were disappointed. Poetry is examples of that.
Okay. What factors do you think were incorporated in the literature during the Harlem Renaissance?
Well, it really was the stories that I know, and I haven't read all of the literature, but the stories I know were emblematic about mistreatment of individuals. It was about struggling and demonstrating the capabilities, great abilities that were, to some people, weren't believed to be possible on the part of African Americans. It's very sad that some people have these ideas, but the literature there demonstrates the great beauty of poetry and to identify racial identity.
Okay. What do you think are the results of the Harlem Renaissance for Black Americans?
Well, listen, it has been now since the 1920s, and we're talking about nearly 90 or more years since the Harlem Renaissance, and students across this nation, regardless of where they are, black or white or other, study the Harlem Renaissance poets, the Harlem Renaissance writers, and understand that they have made significant contributions. This is some of the greatest art our nation has been able to produce, so the effects are long-lasting. You wouldn't be doing this project if it wasn't important. And I imagine kids across this great nation doing similar projects, exploring these great ideas.
Did the Harlem Renaissance have an impact on you?
I, too, I know you may not believe this, but I sat in a high school classroom where I learned about the Harlem Renaissance, and then as I studied history in college, I had a class specifically on the 1920s, and part of that course focused entirely on the Harlem Renaissance. So I teach it now because it's important for history. I learned it because it was important as a youngster, and I explored those ideas as a college class. So it's had a very important effect on me and my teaching and my students for many, many years.
Okay, well, that's it. Thank you so much for doing this interview for us.
You're very welcome. Good luck on the project.